Hey everyone, it's Angus here. I just thought I'd try and make a video on how to perhaps identify stocks that might be going up when the rest of the market is going down. So I thought what I'd do is I'll start off showing you the Nasdaq 100 index, and that's just basically gives you an idea of what's happening with the Nasdaq as a whole. The Nasdaq's been hit a bit harder than the Dow. There's sort of a bit of a move away from technology stocks at the moment. So it's worth having a look at this just to see, is this a bit of a correction at the moment, or is it something more significant? You can see that this period here was, when the coronavirus, sort of really kicked in, and you know, I guess countries started really shutting down, and people went into lockdown. And so what I like to do is I have this indicator that I use called a super trail. It's very, very similar to this one down here called a super trend. And so it doesn't really matter which one you use, but I like the super trail just because it gives me a percentage indicator, as opposed to a dollar amount, and I can make it a bit more specific per chart without having to worry about adjusting the super trend indicator. So you can see that at the moment the value is set to 12, and at 12 you can see that after the volatility at the end of 2019, you can see that the Nasdaq was quite good. You can see that there was a little bit of a dip through here where it sort of got very close to this line, and then it started to move away. Started to diverge quite a bit, and then COVID all of a sudden really came as a bit of a crunch to economies around the world. Dipped right down. It was sort of that mid-March type period, maybe even early April, where the market sort of found some stability and started to recover. And then we've had this massive sell-off up here. But you can see that at this point here, it'll often use this line as a bit of a resistance line or a bit of a support line. You can see that it has sort of dipped around to this line before, which is why I've set it to that value. But what I'll do is I'm going to change the value. You can see, how the volatility comes in as I reduce it. So if I drop it to 11, you can see that this area here was a sell point, and you can see that up here it's now become a sell point as well. Now, what I want to try and do is, if I was trading this as a stock, I'm going to ignore this bit here because it was particularly volatile through here. I just treat this as one big sell down to one big buy. But what I want to try and do is I want to try and reduce this number. You can see now another one's come in there, to something that I think is, something that I could trade without getting thrown out too much. And so you can see here, all of a sudden at 6%, all this extra volatility's come in. So let's go back up to 7. And then often what I'll do is, I might throw in one for luck just to sort of make it a little bit wider. So you can see at this sort of 8% volatility, you can see that you would have started here the 31st of December. You would have been, in and out, let's pretend 1, 2, 3 times, and you're sort of getting out here. So something has happened to the Nasdaq, where it is going through one of these periods where it's certainly got more volatility than the bulk of its, I guess, last 18 months, 2-year history. If I go back up to, let's say, 9, 10, 11, 12, then you can see we're back to everything's nice and smooth through there. So the market's certainly dropped a long way. It's dropped quite suddenly. It's a little bit similar to back here where it dropped, recovered for a bit before another big drop. So I'd just sort of say to everyone, be a little bit careful. I know that with me, I've certainly moved all my stop losses up, really tight. You could look at this and you could say, if it was a stock, you might be able to put something like a little horizontal line across, this sort of area here, and you might say that this was, possibly a resistance area. Got up to there, hit it, drop back, hit it, drop back, hit it, broke through it, came back, tested it, then it sort of recovered a bit. It's come back down. You can see it's hit it. It's tried to recover, but it's failed. So, it did try and recover last night. It actually went all the way down here, recovered, came back down, failed. And so this will be like a critical area just to see if it does break through and it does continue down. I like to look at something like the RSI. You can see the RSI is, really close to that 40 mark. So, the market's, arguably, oversold. You can see that, a few times in the past when it's come down to that sort of 40 mark, it has recovered. It came down to the 40 mark here and broke through it and, went worse. And it wasn't until it sort of came back above it that, you might have started trading the market again. But totally up to everyone how you trade. It's incredibly subjective. We're basically looking at a chart and trying to guess what's going to happen, based on past behavior, which is never necessarily a good indicator, when you're looking at these big overall market moves. So if you feel like your stocks are getting battered, you're not alone. The whole world's going through this same sort of turmoil at the moment, just with markets all around the world getting impacted. So what I'll do is get onto the rest of the video where I can sort of start to say, well, if the market's in a big decline, what stocks are going up? Is there anything that I should maybe be looking at or keeping an eye on? And so what I've done is I've created a blank watch list. It's just a matter of going create a new list, and you can create a new list. I've just said stocks going up just to make it super simple. And then what I do is I'll go down to my trading panel down here, and not my trading panel, sorry, my stock screener. And you can see that I've got on the US market. You can change this to whatever you like. So if you wanted, if you're someone who trades the Australian market, I think I'm going to stuff this. If you wanted to trade the Australian market, you can trade the Australian market. Yeah, no, I've changed it. So my column's going to change. I didn't save it. So let's go back to the US. You can see in the Australian market, there's 2,000 shares. That's the number of shares that are tradable. If you go back to the US market, there's about 10,000. So you can see there's 10,000 there. So 10,000 shares, plus ETFs and, other little crazy bits and pieces. So I go through and check my headings. So I've got industry, I've got rating, which doesn't really mean a lot. I've got my last price that changes what happened yesterday. Did it go up or down since it's, sort of last, I guess, candle close, and I've got a daily candle running. I've got the weekly performance, monthly performance, 3 monthly, yearly. I've got relative volume. Relative volume is quite a good indicator in that it just basically tells you over, I think they used a 10-day period, but it basically says, is this stock doing something unusual in terms of volume? You've got to remember that most price changes are driven by volume. So, relative volume being up or down is a fairly good thing to look at. I've got my average volume over 90 days, or again, 90 periods. So it's, because I use a daily candle, you can say it's 90 trading days. I've got my EBITDA if I wanted to only find stocks that were making money or, positive before, interest, appreciation, and tax. And then I've got my market cap. So you might say I only want to look at companies that are over, market cap over, I don't know, 100 million or a billion, whatever it happens to be. My Bollinger Band up or down, I'll get rid of. I don't need that column. I don't need my ADX column. I'll get rid of you. And so then I'm ready to start looking for stocks. So 10,000 stocks is obviously way too many. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find stocks that are bucking the trend and they're going up for whatever reason. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, show me stocks where they're above, let's say, 2%. They've actually gone up yesterday as opposed to, everything else that's on its way down. So you can see I've still got 1,000. I'm going to turn off this trail. You can see I've still got 1,000 stocks. So that's still way too many stocks for me to, go through and look at. I want to try and get that down to around maybe 20 stocks. So I want to try and get rid of some of these little tiny penny stocks, just because, I don't like to trade anything probably less than $1. So let's go above $1. Probably $5 would be a better value to use, but some of these little ones do run quite well. I also want to see stocks where they've, this one's, you can see it's sort of been in a long-term downtrend. So if you just had to take a punt, you'd say more than likely it might keep going down. It's been going down, 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 down. So unless there's something significantly that changes about that business, it might continue to go down. So what I start to do is I start to play with this yearly value. And so I'm going to say, show me stocks above that have had a greater than 30% return over the year. So I'm down 154, which is good. Show me stocks that are up greater than 50% over the year. So down 119. So 50% is a value that I typically use, just to see how they've gone over that year. But don't forget that there's been a big 10% drop across most of the, very popular stocks because of the last, 4 or 5 trading days. So let's leave that value at 50 for yearly. I want to also get rid of stocks where they're not doing much volume. So even though this stock's gone up 50% over the course, up 108 and 190% over the course of the year, I always sort of think, well, maybe it's not that liquid because, it's only doing sort of 60,000 a day on average. So I'm going to say make that 100,000 just to make sure that the stocks have, got a little bit more volume going through so I can get in and get out when I need to. The relative volume is quite good to look at because you're trying to look for stocks where volume is greater than it normally would be. So, it's a stock that's going up and it's got a little bit of unusual volume. The volume is higher than what it would normally be for that period. 3-month performance. So let me just scoot back over here. So I've got 90 matches. So to me, 3-month performance is kind of a good little benchmark to say, what's the stock, just being, what's the stock, what's management doing well over, let's say, the last, 3 months that, gives it a bit of consistency. So, rather than saying, that it spiked through the roof yesterday because of breaking news, this is sort of giving me a bit of an overall trend. So I like that it's gone up 50% for the year. And I'm going to say find me stocks over 3 months that have, let's say, gone up 20%. Okay, I'm down to 55. Let's make it 30. And I typically use 30 as a value. And so you can see here that, I've got 46 matches where they've gone up, so they're in a fairly good uptrend. They've gone up over 3 months, over a year, and they're up over at least 2%. They're above $1. And so that's not a bad place for me to start. So I'm going to sort by 3-month performance just to see how they've been going. And so you can see across here I've got stocks that are basically saying they're green across all those time periods. So if I click on him, you can see that this particular company, for whatever reason, it sort of spiked on news, which I like. I like stocks that can spike on news. He's come back down. He's spiked again. He's had his earnings. So earnings sometimes a bit of a danger period because the stock can go either way. He's come back down, and he looks like he might be perhaps about to break through this particular area. I had a look at him before. I'll just get rid of this. Get rid of that. Get rid of my alert. And I'll show you how I set those up. And get rid of that alert. Why don't you delete the bugger? Delete. So this is what it looks like when you'll have a look at it. And I like that the RSI looks like it's moving up. And so I look at this particular stock and I say, well, he's been right up all the way up here. So he's down here at the moment. What's the chances he'll get back up to there? Who knows? But, it was interesting. Like if I look at what he did yesterday, he was up 4.2%. But at one stage through the day, he was up quite a bit more than that. So if I turn on my little drawing tool, click on that, and so you can see that's where he roughly closed. And so there was around about 10% in it that he pulled back. Remembering the market was going through a fairly savage pullback yesterday as well. So it's good that he, A, was positive. And you can see there that, there's greater than average volume that's come through. You can see my relative volume is saying, it's at 1.9. I could filter my stocks down further by saying only show me stocks where they've had unusual volume and they've gone up by at least, one time, and now I'm down to 27, which again is much more manageable for me to sort of plow through and have a look. And so when I see a stock like this, because the market's diving all over the place at the moment, what I want to do is I don't want to put a market order in where, if the stock goes down, my market order might, also, drag me down. And so what I want to do is I'll have a look at that stock and I'll say, he's $22.46 at the moment. I'm just going to say if he gets to 23, so I'm going to go add an alert. Let's say $23. If he gets to $23, send me an alert and I'll either place an order manually. But what I'm more likely to do is I'm more likely to go into my broker and place what I call a stop order. If you're using TradingView, and something like TradeStation, you can place stop orders, fairly easily. But I'd probably place a stop order at $23. So if he goes up a little bit, if he comes down, my order won't trigger. If he gets to $23, then my order goes into the market as a market order. You can do things where you can put it into the market as a market limit order, or I should be saying market limit, as a stop limit order. So make sure I should be saying stop. So it's a stop limit order. So if it gets to $23, it'll put in an order at $23 is where it basically puts in a market order. It just says, buy it for whatever price you can get it at. But if you put in what's called a stop limit order, then I could put in an order that says, buy it if it goes above 23, but limit it to 25. So buy it anywhere between 23 and 25, but if it spikes past $25 and I haven't bought it, don't buy it. And at the same time as I place my order, I'll also place my stop loss. So I'll always place a stop loss, normally about 5% down, but because of the way the market is at the moment, what I'll probably do is place a stop loss around this 2056 type level. So just to show you this on the screen, I probably go, I've got these little templates set up and I've made a different video on that somewhere else. But so the low of the day for that particular stock, looking up over here, looks like it was $20.76. So I might say put a stop loss So it was 76. So let's make a stop loss. $20.70 maybe. That's the low of the day. So it's not saying where it opened, but that's the low. So all I'm saying is let's limit my risk. So if I buy the stock at $23 roughly, let's set my stop loss to $20.70, which is roughly just slightly below the low of yesterday, of where that stock went yesterday. And so that's how I'd like to sort of place these types of trades. So I'm only going to go and buy it if it goes above its yesterday's close, and I'm going to get out of it if it goes below that. And if it doesn't go above that $23, I just don't buy it. I'll wait for another opportunity. So because I've got this stock in here, what I'll do is I'll right click and I'll go add to my watch list. The shortcut for that is Alt W. And so that was a longer sort of explanation of how I might find these types of trades, what I look for. And so we'll go through another couple, a bit more quickly. So workhorse is, electric cars, basically. You can see here, you'd argue that it's probably a bit of a resistance level somewhere through there. It might have broken above it. You can see if I zoom in, you can see there's, a bit more volume, which is, good news for that particular stock. My RSI is still around 65. I don't like to buy stocks where the RSI is greater than 70. I think that's just means the stock's a bit overheated. So again, with this particular stock, you can see it's $21.38. I've set an alert at $22. I'm going to hit Alt W, which adds it to my list. Same deal. I'd add a stop loss just roughly below where its bottom of the range was yesterday. I can see my RSI is pointing up. That's pointing up. So to me that looks like a stock that I'd look at. Again, the stock here, you can see that I put a little alert at $6.25. The stop's $5.93. This alert, I just guess, it's nothing particularly clever. I just sort of say, well, if it's going to go up, let's buy it. Let's make sure my stop loss is, just below where the range was yesterday, so I don't get, thumped too badly. You could look at this stock and you could say, well, in theory, maybe this is, was kind of like a support resistance area. So it's tried to get above there. It couldn't. Now it's broken out. Sometimes people say it actually needs to come back and test that before it takes off again. But, I'm just saying, like, I'd probably have a bit of a look at it. I don't even know what the stock does, but I'd go and find out what they do. And if it's something that, seems of interest, at $5.93, I kind of like that. That's a bit of a sweet spot for me. I like that sort of $5 to $20 type stocks, just because I think that they've always got a good chance of, running a little bit once they get to that sort of level. CLDX, so nothing particularly exciting about this one. Like you can see, it's just basically been flat all through that range. It did have a bit of a leg up on some sort of news, but it's very much flat through there. I probably wouldn't look at him unless he was, above that $12.70 type area. You can see all this sort of resistance that, he didn't get through that. So I'm not excited about him. Graph went up 15% yesterday. Must have been some sort of news. You can see the RSI is quite high. Again, I probably wouldn't trade him just because I think he's probably already, maybe done his dash. This has been a reasonable sort of long-term upturn. It's had a big pullback down through there. You can see I must have looked at this before. I think there's some sort of buyout offer on this one, so I might ignore that one for now. Runs another solar one. Solar seems to be doing particularly well at the moment. So again, he's come down to sort of a value area with his RSI. It's moving back up. So again, with him, I'd probably say it's 51.89 now. Let's make it say an alert at, 52.25. So if he goes up past that, send me an alert and I might look to buy. So let's add him to the watch list. And so have a look at him, and then NFE. So again, he's had a bit of a 10% spike. I don't know why. I'd like to find out more about that one. So I won't add an alert, but I'll just add into my little list here so I can keep an eye on him. TGB, don't really know what it is. Looks like a mining company, precious metals. So again, he's had a fairly good run. Sometimes what I'll do is I might throw in a linear regression type tool, and so you can see that, if over the last sort of 90 period, in this case it's days because I've got a day chart, but over the last 90 days, he's sort of been consistently going up, but he's at the top of his range. The RSI is very high, so he's probably not a stock that I'd look at. Got 24 seconds left in the video. This guy, if I turn that off to get rid of the distraction, you can see he's kind of a bit flat through there. So again, he's not one with much momentum, so I'd probably ignore him. DTSS, he's had a big run up there for something on news, so maybe he's one that I could keep an eye on. But I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea, and as always, I'm out of time. Thank you.